Episode 26 of The Burrows. Kevin Bunk, Michael Merlo coming to you from BTO Media. What a special day it is here because bittersweet, I'll say. Yankees start the World Series tonight. And of course, New York Baseball Podcast, this is huge for us. And for me, Yankees fan. Bittersweet, though, our first episode without the Mets today. And we will discuss a little bit later on, after we get to the pressing World Series agenda. We'll discuss the Mets season, and we'll talk about Mike's feelings and his emotions, and maybe give you a little off-season thoughts as well. But you can check out Mike's YouTube instant reaction from Monday morning regarding the Mets season. That's on BTO Media's YouTube, so you can go take a look at that. But today, we'll focus on the World Series. Now, Mike, I'm going to throw a lot of questions to you about whether or not you think my opinions on the World Series in certain aspects are because I'm a Yankees fan. Do you think I'm biased in some of these opinions? Because I'm genuinely curious what you think. I'm trying not to be, but I can't deny that I'm very excited for the Yankees to play in the World Series. But first off, your thoughts on the matchup and how they stack up with the Dodgers.
Well, first off, I'm happy for you that your team, one of your teams, is finally in a championship in a World Series. That's good. So I'm happy for you. It's definitely a tough end for the Mets season, but it was a great season. Now, this series, I mean, it's basically everything that you can ask for in a World Series, right? Go look at the past few matchups we've had. They haven't been great, right? You've had some good series, but overall, just the markets, the players, they haven't been that great. This one is literally a dream. So, even though my team was eliminated by one of these teams, I'm still very excited to sit down tonight and watch this series. Now, am I doing a little hate watching? Maybe. But either way, I'm very excited to watch this matchup because I do think these are two very close teams. And we're going to get into it when I guess we compare, starting pitching, bullpen, lineups, things like that. I think it's so close, and I think we are tighter at one position than a lot of people think, one area that a lot of people think. So this is going to be a 6-7 game series, and I'm pumped to watch it.
Yeah, I think that the matchup, you look at it, and we'll go right into, because I'm curious what you meant by that last point, we'll go right into comparing the teams. I just wrote down 5 spots and compared the Yankees and Dodgers. Now, you'll tell me what you think after, but 5 key spots, the 5 I care about. Starting pitching, Yankees are better, I think, not by a lot, but by a comfortable margin where I'm saying
that's what I was talking about. I think it's much closer than you think. I think we've seen a lot of people say, well, the Yankees have this massive edge with the starting pitching. They have more starting pitchers. That doesn't mean they have better starting pitchers. They have the best one, but after that, I don't know where the rest of them rank.
I think the only days that they're better are in the first game, the first time through that rotation with Cole versus Flaherty. But listen, if Cole gives up 4 runs and Flaherty gives up 2, nobody's surprised at that. And then they're not better on the Yamamoto-Rodon matchup. They're better in the game 3 only because the Dodgers are probably throwing a bullpen game against Clark Schmidt. But Clark Schmidt, one of our guys here. So we like Schmidt. And then Luis Gil, one of those two get a bullpen game. One of them will get another starter, but you'd think if the bullpen game is game 3, the Yankees still fare better pitching in game 4. But you're right, and I agree with you. The margin is not significant between Yankees starting pitching and the Dodgers starting pitching. It's not like 2019. And I always think about 2019 because that's one of the series I actually went into thinking there's a significant pitching advantage for the underdog and odds here. With Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin in 2019, you genuinely sat there and said, okay, Washington can win this series with their pitching. I don't look at that at this World Series the same way I looked at that pitching matchup.
No, but if you get the Carlos Rodon you paid for, then you should be able to get that, right? But you're not getting that guy. I think I am one of the bigger, and I'm not saying that Yankee fans like the guy. I think I'm becoming a big Carlos Rodon hater. I just because I think it was such a waste of that money, because they put a graphic up. I forget what account put a graphic up, and they put up the total contracts, like the top 10 biggest contracts by total money. And Carlos Rodon gets paid the same amount as Freddie Freeman. I mean, what a joke. Yeah. That's a big miss by Brian Cashman. I know they needed a starting pitcher, and I'm pretty sure they were different years. But to allocate that money to Carlos Rodon and not one of the better first basemen we've seen in the past decade. I know we're playing Monday morning quarterback, and that was a really long time ago, but it pisses me off to no end because Freddie Freeman should be a Yankee. I digress. You should have this kind of dominance over here, Kevin, but you don't, because you're not getting that same Carlos Rodon you've seen the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time of the signing, I liked it. I didn't really care much about the money when you compare it to other contracts now. In hindsight, as you said, Monday quarterback, this is a rough look for the Yankees. At the time, though, he, in a 1-year sample size, I guess you can include 2, the final year with Chicago, he was the best left-handed pitcher in baseball, but in a very watered-down left-handed pitcher market. There wasn't a Skubal in the league. There wasn't a Kershaw who was healthy in the league. So it was a very watered-down market. Rodon was the only guy that was consistently very good, not even great, very good for 2 years. They had to sign him. They did. And listen, we're also in one of those weeks where I'm sure today we'll talk about other players that we're not too high on. Maybe Jazz Chisholm is one of those guys based on what he did the last 3 weeks. But you have 2 or 3 big games here and win a World Series, then what does that money matter? And I know that you would agree with that as well. If Rodon has 2 big starts here and sucks the rest of his career as a Yankee, but he was a big part in them winning a ring right here, all the money was worth it.
Oh, 100%. 110%.
So he has a chance, as does Aaron Judge on the playoff narrative, as does Jazz Chisholm on the way he's started, as does a guy like Gleyber Torres, who's had a great postseason and was written off, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, all these guys who have had struggles for the Yankees can now completely erase that. And same thing on the Dodgers side. A guy like Yamamoto, who is a little hit or miss so far this postseason, had the bad start against San Diego and a good start against the Mets, but little hit or miss here. You're looking at it and saying, hey, this guy can make it worth the money right here. 25-year-old ace pitcher can make it worth the money. And both of these fan bases, I think, are desperate for a title, because I don't know how satisfied Dodgers fans were with the 60-game win in 2020. I think they're glad they won it. They celebrated, but that's not a level of satisfaction that they have.
You can't be. This is a big one, and it's the Yankees, and there is some sort of, there is this rivalry here, right? There is, going back a really long time, these two playing in New York and battling it out for many, many championships. So, it's just, like I mentioned before, it's as big as you can get. So for these Dodger fans, and by the way, the New York-LA rivalry, just, in general, no sports involved, just, the 2 big coasts, the 2 big cities, it's big. And they're going to need Yamamoto, their guy, that they paid, not just $325 million for, $375 million for a posting fee of $50. They haven't trusted him. I'm guessing because of injury. I'm guessing just acclimating him, but they need to push him big time. And he needs to have a big series here for, I think, him to really earn the trust of the fan base and the organization.
All right, so that was the starting pitching. My other 4 areas here of comparison, I go bullpen, another slight edge to the Yankees. I think they have more guys I trust at the moment. This could flip tonight. This could flip so quickly. I think Kopech is the best bullpen arm in this World Series, and he can implode. Weaver can implode. Holmes can implode. Trinan can implode. So I'm not really comfortable with either bullpen here saying they're better. I'm just going to give a slight edge to the Yankees because they have 1 or 2 more guys that I think can get you 3 outs here.
Well, here's the problem. The Dodgers are going to use so many of these guys at so many different times, in these bullpen games and they have used them, their arms are taxed, I'm sure, at this point. So it's an interesting point. I think the Dodgers have more guys, but the more high leverage guys you trust in big spots, I'd probably give the edge to the Yankees. But, what are you getting from Clay Holmes, right? I mean, he's been good up until, a couple of those outings later in the Cleveland series, but it's tough. It's really close. And I'm taking a look right now at the bullpen for the Dodgers. It's really, really close. I'd give the slight edge to the Dodgers.
On Instagram, Dcrit24, I don't know if I know this person by username, but says it's a battle between Yamamoto and Rodon. Whoever pitches better wins the series. I could agree with that, because if one of those pitchers pitches well and wins both of their games, that team is going to win the World Series. So that's a good point.
It's a good
and then
point.
On the topic of bullpen, we have on YouTube, Clay Holmes should be banned from high leverage in this series. High leverage after the 7th, I would agree with. You've established that he can't pitch the 8th, 9th, or 10th here, and Canley has been good in those spots. Weaver obviously has been very good in those spots. So there's no reason to throw Holmes after the 7th inning in this series.
But all right, so you're going to take him out, right? He was your de facto setup man, right, for a little bit towards the down the stretch. You would agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Who's replacing him, and who do you trust?
Well,
seriously.
I'm going to go to that formula that Boone used in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, which was Holmes in the 7th, whether that's a high leverage 7th or not. Holmes in the 7th, Canley in the 8th, Weaver in the 9th. Because Weaver or Canley, I don't love that he throws 40 changeups every time he pitches, but he looked good. I mean, it's a good pitch. It's a disgusting changeup, but yeah, I don't love the fact that that's what he does. I don't love any of the Yankees guys. They don't have a shutdown pitcher to come out and pitch here, but one team in the postseason had a shutdown pitcher, and Emmanuel Clase got absolutely teed up for 3 games. So, I mean, bullpen is such a crapshoot in the playoffs, and it really is where games are won and lost, especially in a World Series. Which team is going to hit in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, which also means which bullpen is going to give up runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
This Dodger lineup, man, it's just and listen, watching them for 6 games, was it the Met pitching running out of gas? I think it's part of it, but I also think they have so many guys that have postseason experience and just thrive in the postseason, like Kike Hernandez, like Max Muncy, where it's so tough it's almost impossible to pitch this lineup. It is so frustrating. Can the Yankees do it? That's going to be the big thing here. Canley should be the 8th inning guy. Ohtani and Betts struggle most against changeups. Yeah, okay. Then Canley should be the 8th inning guy.
And they also don't chase. The Dodgers don't chase here, which brings me to my next point of lineup. Lineup, you give the edge to the Dodgers, obviously.
Yeah.
And the reasoning for me is I don't even think that I'd be comfortable saying their 1 through 5 will be better. Is it better? Yes. Will it be in the series? If there's any team that can compete with their 1 through 5, it's the Yankees 1 through 5. Now, the 6 through 9, which is what you just brought up, is almost as good as Cleveland's 1 through 5 right now. Or Cleveland's 1 through 4.
That's not difficult. That's not difficult.
No, it's not. But they are this 6 through 9 is very dangerous. And I'm going to tell you something right now before this series starts. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope we come back and say, man, why was Kevin worried about that? They did nothing. Teoscar and Kike Hernandez absolutely kill the Yankees. Absolutely kill the Yankees. I'm more worried about those two than I am Betts and Ohtani. They absolutely destroy the Yankees. And Hernandez, Kike has won a World Series already, or been in one already. I don't know if he was on the 2020 Dodgers. I actually don't think he was.
He was.
Oh, he was? Okay. So he's played in at least one. He's won one. He scares me. And the bottom of this order scares me. I don't even want to bring up Tommy Edman with you. I just think it's still too soon.
Please don't. Please don't.
I mean, ridiculous championship series for Edman. And then you have Muncy in this lineup. There's not a guy. This is the difference between the Yankees lineup, bottom of the order, and the Dodgers lineup. The Yankees and Dodgers both have hitters right now in that bottom 3 that are hitting really well. Anthony Volpe hit over 300 in the first 2 rounds. Verdugo hit well in the first 2 rounds, but they don't hurt you alone. They're not going to put a ball deep. They're not going to give you an extra base hit with 2 outs. They're not really made for that hitting. They hit the singles, they work counts, they draw walks, and maybe Volpe's going to steal and create a scoring opportunity that way. But Muncy, Edman, Hernandez, these guys take you deep if you make mistakes. These guys take you to the wall, to the track if you make a mistake. They'll hit one hard into the gap. That's where their lineup is so superior, because there is a legitimate threat for production with no one on for the bottom of their order.
And let me scare you here a little bit more. Teoscar, before the last game of the series, did nothing in the championship series. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's 0 for 17. He started out the series, so he's due to get hot here. He's a great player. He's looking for a contract. He's on a 1-year deal right now. So, yeah, that would definitely scare me. And, exactly, you mentioned Kike. He's just made for these moments. He's kind of like their version of Stanton, where he does nothing in the regular season, although Stanton didn't do nothing in the regular season. He had a good season, but Kike does nothing. He's not really a factor. And the postseason comes around, and you must play him every single day, no matter what. He has to be in that lineup in October.
This is a good one here. I know that we discussed a couple times about the Yankees' lack of lefties in the bullpen, knock on Brian Cashman, but now this problem actually seems to be resolved going into the World Series because you have Tim Hill, you have Nestor Cortes. I don't know if Mize will make the roster. He's just not a guy that pitches in any sort of a close game. If the game's within 6 runs, Mize is not going to pitch in the World Series, so I don't know if he actually makes the roster. But this addition of Nestor Cortes, we have to see if he's able to pitch. He hasn't pitched in a month, but the addition of Cortes now helps the Yankees pen tremendously because this is a reliever that can now pitch probably, if he's healthy, if everything's good. I know he's made that comment about he's risking a lot pitching in this championship, but you might be able to get 4 games of usage out of Cortes here and then another 3 or 4 from Hill, who's been very good. So the Yankees now have kind of fixed their left-handed reliever issue, but we'll see how Cortes is.
Well, and it hurt the Mets, and then look at not having a lefty to be able to pitch to Ohtani and Freeman when he's in there, and then look at what the Padres had, right? The Padres had a couple of lefties, especially one they literally got to face these 2 guys, knowing that the Dodgers would be the team they had to get through, whether to win the division or get to the postseason. And in the postseason, they go and they trade for Tanner Scott, and they give up a lot for him, a big-time lefty. So, it could hurt you. I wonder what you're getting out of Cortes. That would be my big question mark, and how they use him. You say, oh, you can get, 4 appearances out of him, or do they go the other route and say, we're in a big game here. Maybe you're down 0-1, right? And it's game 2 and you're up 2 runs, but Ohtani's coming up, and you use Cortes for multiple innings, maybe 2 or 3 innings, get you through the game. I don't know how they're going to use him. Are they going to use him as a long man? Or are they going to use him as a guy that just gets 3 or 4 outs?
Yeah, it's a good point. Cortes is a huge, huge X factor in this World Series. He's a weapon for the Yankees if he's good out of the pen, and he could be a detriment for them if he's just not ready to go. 2 more of my comparison spots here. Defense, I give to the Dodgers, not by much. I don't think either team has this perfect, powerful defense, but I also think the Yankees are more prone to make that error than the Dodgers would be. And the biggest, most significant difference I could find in this team, in these 2 teams, in this matchup, is their base running. And that is not some crazy revelation that I just came up with.
Yeah.
The Yankees might be the worst base running team in Major League Baseball this season, and the Dodgers are one of, if not the best. So you have a serious problem where the Yankees may lose one of these games on their base running. And Mike, I would be floored if the Dodgers lost any games because of a bad base running error.
Well, the Dodgers have speed, and they're just intelligent baseball players that don't make mistakes on the base paths, right? So, yeah, the Yankees, we can use John Sterling's quote once again. They run the bases like they're drunk, or whatever he said, but along those lines, it's killer. And you mentioned the defense. Yes, the one thing I would say, I think it would be a bigger edge if you had a healthy Freeman at first, because Freeman's a great defender at first.
Yeah.
The Mets didn't do this. The Padres didn't really do this. Drop a bunt down that way.
I was going to say that too.
If Jazz Chisholm starts the series off 0-for-7, can he drop a bunt down over there and get on base, get something started? So if Freeman's in there and the ankle's still hobbled, which I'm guessing it still will be, that's a big issue for them defensively. But if he wasn't hurt, I think the defense, you're absolutely not even thinking about it giving the edge to the Dodgers.
No, you're not. And the Yankees, that left side of the infield really concerns me. And then Gleyber Torres a little bit also. I'm not going to get too worried about Soto. He's a Gold Glove finalist. Obviously, he's a great outfielder. But
crazy.
That's insane. That was
how
insane.
How much did Boris pay for that?
He had to have thrown something. There's no way a writer looked at Soto's defense this year and said, or any year, and said, this guy's one of the elite corner outfielders in baseball.
It's wild.
I don't know how the Gold Glove voting really works, because I get it's only 3 guys a position, but if Francisco Lindor is not on that list and Juan Soto is, I know it's 2 totally different positions, 2 totally different leagues. something is totally wrong. Something is completely wrong with the system if those two guys, Soto was the one that was on and Lindor was the one that was off.
They might have to fix it. I don't know.
Oh man, it just does not make any sense. Doesn't make any sense there. And Lindor hasn't won a Gold Glove in like 5 years.
Yeah, it's the New York bias.
So exactly, right?
The Queen's bias, excuse me. It's the Queen's bias.
Oh, yeah, everyone hates the Yankees too. The league doesn't want them getting awards or shine. Also, I do want to say, we talked about it a few times, how much of a dream this is for Major League Baseball, who have literally been promoting the season as if these were the only two teams playing in it anyways.
Yeah.
It's been all Ohtani, Judge, and Soto all year.
Every commercial starts with either Judge or Ohtani. Like every postseason commercial starts with those two. And my dad was talking to me and he was like, I'm pretty sure I saw a commercial that literally just had the Yankees and the Dodgers, like before the Mets series was over. And I was like, wouldn't shock me.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. That's how it's been all year.
Good for Major League Baseball. Let's say that. I'm a fan of baseball. Okay. This is a really good thing. I really hope this can rate. Like, the ratings for the CS was good. And the numbers you talk about, they don't seem great, especially when you think about the numbers you get for a random football game on a Thursday night. But can they get a Thursday night-like rating for one of these games? You think tonight they can get, like, I don't know, 15 million?
I think they can. I think they can because you almost have to imagine with the amount of fans watching each team, you should get close to that number. And just the diehard fans.
Yeah. And then let's add Japan into this now.
Yeah, and then you throw in Japan, which tomorrow should be a boom with Yamamoto on the mound for a World Series game.
It doesn't matter. I think they had, I forget the number exactly. I want to say like 7 million watching in Japan for a couple of those championships.
Yeah. No, I think they might get I want to see what's the highest rated World Series game ever. Because the last few years have obviously been down for.
It was like 7 or 9 million last year.
All right, so yeah, this is obviously way down the last few years from the all-time record, which was the Yankees-Dodgers 1978 World Series. So, Mike, maybe we should be looking a lot higher than 15 million people.
Why? How many people watched that one?
44.2. You're
not getting that.
People.
You're not getting that.
Not getting that. But they should get 20.
You think you're getting 20?
At some point over, especially if they get a game 7, they should get 20 million people watching this game.
Okay. Are we counting Japan? I don't think we're counting Japan in our numbers.
No, not in our numbers. If you count Japan, they should get 25 at least once.
You know they have like Ohtani Day every month in Japan?
Yeah. He's literally the biggest athlete I think he's probably the biggest celebrity in Japan history.
Crazy. Good for them. Good for baseball.
Yeah, good for Ohtani. Terrible for Ippei Mizuhara.
Yeah. I think he's going to get 7 to 9 years, I was reading.
Yeah, bad year for him, man. And how about the whole flow of that Dodgers Ohtani season? They get him for the $700 million, all the deferrals, that's big news. Then right before you go to play those games in Korea to start the year, which was dumb anyways, a week before anyone else starts, right before you play those games at 3 a.m. in America, Ippei Mizuhara steals $5 million from Ohtani and gambles it all. And that's obviously that didn't happen at one time, but then that hammer gets brought down. Everyone thinks Ohtani is the one gambling. Most people, I think, still do believe Ohtani had a hand in that. And now it's like all forgotten because he's in the World Series against the Yankees, and that's just way bigger than your gambling scandal from opening day.
Is it?
Well, is it in the MLB's eyes? Yeah,
it shouldn't be, but it is. No,
in the eyes of Major League Baseball, it is far bigger.
He wasn't gambling. It wasn't him.
Positive.
Wasn't him.
Not one.
He seems like
not even a free play.
He seems like just so focused on being the greatest baseball player of all time. Maybe it's an act. I could be wrong, but he just seems so focused on being that number one player ever. I don't think.
Let me ask you this one. MLB Network today or MLB.com posted, I'm not sure which one, so forgive me, posted their top 5 players in the World Series. Number 1 was Ohtani. Number 2 was Judge. Do you agree with that?
You know what? I think I do agree with that. Okay. I think offensively, they are so close. You know, the knock on Judge, the only knock you can have on Judge is that he swings at bad pitches. And Bobby Valentine, I interviewed Bobby Valentine for the School this week, and Bobby Valentine said something very interesting. He said the only thing about Judge is that Judge doesn't hit as many pitches as other guys do. Now, I don't know how you want to take that, but he doesn't hit as many pitches as other guys do. And he chases more than you would like. Ohtani doesn't. Ohtani is such a good, like, doesn't chase bad pitches. He hits the ball as hard as Judge and Stanton, right? So I would say Ohtani. I think it's Ohtani.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue it.
I flipped too because I was a Judge guy. I was Judge.
I still think I'd rather have Judge while Ohtani can't pitch because Judge also is playing good center field. So as far as players go, the 50 stolen bases thing, I'm where you were a year ago with Acuna, where I'm starting to say, well, it doesn't really mean too much to me right now. It's impressive that a guy with that much power can steal at all. Yeah. That's a different argument, but 50-50, I'm not too crazy about. Just not that I'm knocking it, but I'm just not locked in on, this is an incredible accomplishment, first person to ever do it. I'd give Judge the edge, but if Ohtani was pitching, it's obviously a clear, even if Ohtani was playing right field, if he was able to play a bad right field, I'm giving it to him. It's just the fact that he doesn't play, and I don't think he's better than Judge at the plate. But like, if we're gonna sit here and argue, which I know neither of us want to, and neither of us are going to, about Ohtani versus Judge at the plate, that is such a waste of time. They're the 2 best hitters in the world. So what does it matter? They're 2 of the best, maybe the 2 best I've seen since like young Trout. So we got to go back like 10 years for me to say.
No, they're the 2 best. They're the 2 best.
They are just unbelievable, the 2 of them. And this is, listen, take everything out of my fandom, take it all out of the equation here. I said in the first round in the division series, so the Yankees' first round, I said it's going to be pretty cool to see Bobby Witten, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto, the 3 top MVPs in the American League, play in this series. I think that's really cool. And Witt ends up really doing nothing, but I enjoyed it. I liked the fact that every half inning, really, every other half inning, you have MVPs coming up to the plate.
Yeah.
That was cool. Then I didn't really feel that way with Cleveland. Love J-Rom. Didn't really feel that way with Cleveland. Now, it's just magnified a ton. The 2 best players on the planet are playing for this championship, which, Mike, tell me the last time in a sport, I could be wrong. I could miss something in my memory right here that I'm thinking back to. Tell me the last time in a sport the 2 best players on the planet were playing for a title.
Maybe
Mahomes, Brady in that Super Bowl. Like,
I was gonna say Curry, LeBron in 2016.
Yeah, I mean that is. And even then, I wasn't there with Curry. I just don't think we've had a clear-cut top 2 playing against each other like this. Because Curry agree. At the time, you could argue Durant, you could argue Harden was dropping like 35 a night, and in baseball, you can argue Ohtani versus Judge. But you can't argue for anyone else.
Right. No, you can't. And let's go down the list. Mookie Betts is a top 10 player in the league. Soto's a top 5 player in the league.
Playoff Stanton actually is the best player in the whole season.
Stanton's better than everybody. And Freddie Freeman is one of the best hitters we've ever seen.
Will Smith
in our generation.
Probably the best all-around catcher in the game right now, Will Smith.
He stinks right now, though.
He stinks in the playoffs, and he's not a great defensive catcher. But I think the catcher position just stinks in the league.
Kike Hernandez is also God in the postseason.
Tommy Edman.
Then the Dodgers reincarnated Pete Rose and put him at shortstop and have Tommy Edman out there. Yeah. So It's crazy the amount of really good players. You don't have the pitching. You don't quite have the pitching, but offensively, it's unbelievable.
And even with Cole, this might be biased as a Yankee fan, honestly, just because the expectation and standard for Cole is so high, and maybe I'm just numb to watching. But even with Cole, it just doesn't feel as if there is a real great ace in this series.
Well, you didn't have a full season of Cole, and you haven't really seen him dominate at the levels where you expect him to just yet. So maybe he does it here, right? Maybe he writes his story in this series. But yeah, offensively, this is where the firepower is. And I think Major League Baseball is very happy about that.
Yeah, Major League Baseball is pumped. And I think, listen, once again, take your fandom out of the equation here with the Mets. I think baseball fans, as much as they're going to sit here and say, oh, I hate these two teams, I hate that the big market teams are in, this is way better than Texas, Arizona. Like, this is just not – this is a World Series that, for multiple reasons. Geographically, you literally have the opposite ends of the country. So this is not two states apart, Texas and Arizona, where nobody on the East Coast really has any dog in this fight. Nobody could care at all about this. You have a global sensation in Ohtani playing against the best player on the New York Yankees, the best player the New York Yankees have had in decades in Aaron Judge. So those are two global marketing icons, the best player on the Yankees and Shohei Ohtani. So this is, compared to our last 5 or 6, really, I said to you the other day, I think this is the best World Series in 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I look back at it, 2004, Red Sox versus Pujols Cardinals. That's probably the last time we had a World Series with the stars of this caliber, close to this caliber on the stage.
It's perfect. It's literally it's literally a perfect scenario. And you're gonna have maybe it's 30 or 40% of the people watching fans, right? Like fans of the teams. And then you have like 60% of the people hate watching. I love when people say, oh, you stink, you're an idiot. When they're watching us, listening to us, it's like, well, if you're listening, then that's just as much of a rating as if you hate me, if you like me, excuse me. So hate watch if you're going to. I've seen those takes on Twitter, and it's just so idiotic. Oh, I don't want this series. I would have rather Mets Guardians or something like that.
Yeah,
no,
you wouldn't.
Let's go.
Nobody's watching Mets Guardians.
I would, yeah, you would have too. But
imagine the difference in ratings between Mets Guardians and Yankees Dodgers. I mean, Major League Baseball at 2-1 apiece in that series had to be like, it can't happen, right? Like it can't be the Mets and Guardians, right? There's no way they win these, and they were all just freaking out. And unfortunately, it didn't happen because we would have loved to see the Mets in this title. Obviously not above the Yankees. That's not what I'm saying, but. For us here, we really wanted this Subway Series. At least,
but nobody else wanted it. I was in Atlantic City over the weekend, and the Mets hadn't lost yet. So I had a Mets shirt on, whatever, and the Subway Series came up, and some woman comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, aren't you rooting for a Subway Series?" And I go, "I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody in New York wants this. At least me. Like the diehard fan does not want the Subway Series. It's going to be just insanely toxic." So
you said that early on too, right before the playoffs started. I said, "Would you want if I told you the only way to get to the World Series is the Subway Series?" You were pretty hesitant. You were like, "I don't want that.
I don't want it." Didn't want it. But I'm like, nobody in New York wants this. Like Met and Yankee fans, I don't think a lot of them want it.
And while we're talking about ratings, nobody around the country really wants it too. Major League Baseball doesn't want it because
nobody outside New York cares.
Exactly. People don't realize the geographical impacts of championships. You need teams from each side of the country. That's why, for the most part, the leagues in every sport, with the exception of football, because football is its own entity with ratings and it's such a ratings monster. But the leagues, basketball literally has the East and West. National League, American League is pretty fairly divided, but because you have the divisions, but you usually don't get Yankees Mets or something like that. That's very rare to get, or even Yankees Phillies. The geographic you don't usually get a good split, but that's why the leagues do that. Hockey, obviously East and West, but they don't want these teams playing each other in the championship. They want the conference rivalries, and then you want far geographic regions playing each other in the titles. And I mean, Major League Baseball, I know we're just beating a dead horse here. They literally got their perfect World Series with this. If you asked them at any point in the year, which two teams from the first day of February till last week when this was decided, if you asked them what two teams do you want in this World Series, almost every executive at Major League Baseball is saying, I want the Yankees and Dodgers. And they got it.
And they have it.
They have it. All right, so enough glazing over the World Series matchup here for ratings and stuff. But who do you think, who are the guys that you're looking at in this series? Obviously, you have Judge, Soto, Betts, Freeman, Ohtani. Who are the guys looking at this series and saying, give me one or two from each team? They have to show up here. And if they do, they increase their team's chances of winning more than any other player on their team does.
Yeah, so we talked about Teoscar before. I think Teoscar, he didn't hit over 100 in the championship series. So, yeah. I mean, he's going to have to, he went 2 for 22. So he's going to be better. And I would expect him to, and he's going to make a major impact for this team. And then I'll go on the Dodger side still, Walker Buehler. He didn't pitch that bad versus the Mets. The Mets let him off the hook, but he made some big pitches and got out of some jams. Can Buehler be that X factor to tie the other two together, give them some length so they don't have to waste the bullpen because they're going to be using bullpen games, give them some more length than maybe Yamamoto can, and use that postseason experience that he has and really get over the finish line for the Dodgers. So those would be my two guys on the Dodger side.
All right. On the Dodgers side, I was going to say Hernandez as well. They need him to hit. I was between Hernandez and Smith, but at the end of the day, it's got to be Hernandez who comes in and really provides production for the Dodgers lineup. And I'm going to add one more in. I like Buehler as well, but I'm going to throw in Treinen here. And I think that the Dodgers, they just can't lose in those late innings, the 7th, 8th. You can't be getting lit up the way that Cleveland did. And when people tell me, well, the Dodgers pitching is good, their starting pitching is good, their bullpen is good, well, it's not better than Cleveland's. And top to bottom, it's not better than Cleveland's.
Yeah.
And you see what the Yankees did to Cleveland and Kansas City, who Kansas City has the superior starting pitching out of those three teams. I know none of the lineups can compare and put the pressure on the Yankees the way that the Dodgers lineup can, because obviously good offense from the other side can put pressure on yours just as much as pitching can. But the Yankees have shown that they can hit from the first inning to the 9th inning in this postseason. Now, on the Yankee side of it, I'm going to give you just the one guy that I think, I'll give you two guys that have to show up in this series. Gleyber Torres created so many runs for them in the first 2 rounds. He's on base seemingly every first at-bat of the game. I think he was 7 for 9 on getting on base in the leadoff at-bat, which is just a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
He needs to continue to get on base for them, because I was watching AJ Hinch talk with Buster Olney about the Yankees lineup. I don't know if you saw this, about dealing with Soto, Judge, Stanton. He said the problem that Cleveland and Kansas City had was they couldn't get the 3 guys before them out. They couldn't get Volpe, Verdugo, Torres out. So when you are putting those guys on base, the solo home run becomes a 3-run home run. It becomes a 2-run home run, grand slam. It becomes a double with to clear the bases. So you need to understand, and the same thing goes for the Yankees on the other side, because the lineups are basically the same, type of danger. You have to get that turnaround at the bottom out. You have to retire those guys, and obviously Ohtani hits leadoff. But for the Dodgers, they have to get Torres too, because those guys, Ohtani, Betts, Soto, Judge, Stanton, they're going to hurt you. They're going to in this series. You have to make it as minimal as possible so that the solo home run is just a solo home run. And it's not a 3-run home run because you walked the 9 batter and you gave up a single to the 7 hitter. And with 2 outs, Soto came up and punished you. Or with 2 outs, Ohtani came up and punished you. Limit the damage.
It's a great point. And Torres has done a great job this entire postseason. And towards the end of the season, 100% right. He has to continue to do that. it's so frustrating when you walk the 9-hitter, not just because it's the 9-hitter's their worst player, but like you mentioned, now you have their top guys coming up, and with the Dodgers, it's even more dangerous because if you do get into, 8-9, your 8-9 guys get on with 2 outs, it's not Gleyber Torres coming up, it's Shohei Ohtani. So that's the big difference with the Dodgers and the Yankees. Very interesting. One guy I'll say for the Yankees, Chisholm. I think if Chisholm hits this team, you can't really stop him. You can't really stop this Yankee team if Chisholm, along with Soto and Judge and Stanton and Gleyber, they're hitting too. You get this guy going, it might be over early for this Dodger team.
And Chisholm is in a position in the lineup where he's either going to be hitting 4th, 5th, or 6th every night. I don't know what Boone's going to do with Stanton. I have a feeling Stanton's going to end up moving into the 4 just so that you create that murderer's row of Soto, Judge, Stanton. They did it once in the series against Cleveland. But when you have that, and then you have probably Chisholm would hit 5 in that scenario, and then Rizzo behind him, Rizzo and Volpe are hitting, but they're only hitting singles. The two of them don't have much pop here. They're putting the ball right past the infield, and that's fine. That's what you need. Chisholm, a large part of why he was traded for, besides the fact that they needed his bat, was his base running. They needed to get more athletic. Yeah. So if he's not getting on and creating opportunities for runs, he kind of becomes useless because he's not an elite third baseman.
No.
So he's out of position at third. It's not, you don't have this Gold Glove guy. You got to hit and you got to produce runs. That's why you're here. He didn't. I think that he's a guy that the week off and now this massive, massive stage could really play into his favor.
He could shine.
He could. He's one of those guys that I think the brighter the lights, I'm not going to say he thrives because we haven't seen it yet, but he doesn't get uncomfortable.
Stanton's so scary, man. Stanton's so scary. They should hit him for. Yeah. They should hit him for. If he continues what he was doing, I mean, it's almost impossible to pitch. I mean, it's funny to even think about a scenario where a top 3 or 4 of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Hernandez can be outclassed, but man, the 2, 3, 4 for the Yankees might be able to. That might be with Stanton hitting the way he is. It might be able to outclass him.
And then it's a 2, 3, 4 where the leadoff man, is getting on base almost every time he's up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if that keeps up, you have to pitch to Judge. That is insane to say. Judge is the guy you have to pitch to because you cannot leave something for Stanton, and you can't throw to Soto. You cannot pitch to Soto.
You don't pitch to Soto. It's Soto's essentially pitching to you.
Yeah, exactly. I love what Darling says. He said it 2 or 3 times throughout this postseason. Now he's off the air, of course. Fox gets the rest of the games, but Darling, I think, is just excellent. I know you would feel the same way.
Yeah.
And he said, when you're a pitcher, and I don't think he's the only person to ever say this, but when you're a pitcher, you're taught to work the hitter. You work the count. Soto works you. And that's why he is the toughest out in baseball. And he really does. How about that at-bat game 5? We'll show it some love here quick.
Yeah.
That game 5 at-bat, the 3-run home run. And then after the game, you hear what he said about that at-bat, what was going through his mind?
He said it's something along the lines of he knew he was getting it. Like he was on
that. He knew he had him, that this guy has nothing, and that he knew he had him. And he's not just saying that after he hit the home run. You know he's thinking that while he's hitting the at-bat. This guy's got nothing on me. I'm taking him deep here. And he knew it the second he hit it.
I had somebody that knows nothing about baseball watch the at-bat and say it's like he knew the whole time he was gonna hit that home run. And I was like, that's how he is.
He is such a rare player. He's going to be the most generational free agent. We might not see a free agent of his caliber in our lifetime. I know that Ohtani just happened, but with the age and everything that plays into Soto's free agency, he's just a one-of-a-kind free agent. That is something I don't want to talk about right now because it brings in that Mets argument that I don't want to go down that path here on Burrows. We've talked about it earlier in the season. We'll talk about it in a week or two, but just lazy argument for me while the Yankees better play in the World Series. But yeah, Soto is the guy you can't pitch to here.
I feel like Ohtani, at least watching him for the past week and a half, is as close to Soto in terms of you can't pitch to him, and he's such a good eye at the plate. And the fear factor also mixed in.
Yeah.
There's a large fear factor, obviously, with the both of them. that I felt the same way I feel when they were pitching to, with Ohtani to Soto, where when they're facing, and this is as a fan watching, as when they're facing Harper, I'm like, Harper's dangerous. He can kill you here, but you can get him to chase. He's just strike out. Or you can get him to roll over one. Like, I never feel that way about those two guys ever, that they're just going to roll over and hit a ground ball to the second baseman. I never, ever feel that way.
About those two guys, meaning Ohtani and Soto.
Ohtani and Soto, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant Ohtani and Soto or Ohtani and Betts. Ohtani and Soto. They're just the two of them, and they're the best. And they're not the best players in the series because Soto isn't better than Judge, but like, they're the two guys that I think when you're a pitcher on the other side, for the reason that you were just talking about a few minutes ago, speaking with Valentine, Judge is going to chase you out of the zone. Soto and Ohtani, you're getting nothing given to you. Nothing is given to you in this at-bat. And Cole kind of alluded to that when he was asked, how do you face the Dodgers lineup? And he said, well, the tough thing is you just have to make your pitches and be confident in your pitches, and the rest is out of your control. I mean, they're just great. You can't dance around the Dodgers. You can't dance around the Yankees either, really, with Soto in that order, with the eye that Torres has had. And all right, first of all, back to playoff Stanton here. I'm sorry for going off the path here of the Cole comment, but Stanton in the regular season has literally no vision. If it was MLB The Show, it would say zero vision. You get to the postseason, and I have Ron Darling or whoever it was, I think it was Darling, telling me it was John Boy, I think, said it, and I actually believe it, that he swung at two outside sliders in Game 5 to bait BB into throwing him a third one. And then now this guy just became the greatest hitter and plate approach of all time because it's October. Like, where is this? I'm sorry, but I'm cool. I'm glad it happens in the postseason.
No, don't complain. Don't complain.
Where is this all season, man? Like, he's just swinging out of his shoes all year long, and now he's just toying with pitchers.
It's a 162 game bait of, I stink, throw me anything. And that is when you get to the postseason, it's just like, all right, you learn 2 weeks in, you can't throw him anything anymore.
That's exactly what it looks like, man. I mean, it's just, you get here and you cannot throw him any off speeds because if anything ends up over the plate, it's 10 rows deep. Did you see the home run he hit at Dodger Stadium when he was on the Marlins, like 2016 or 17?
Yes.
And it just, you don't even see it land, just way out of the park, never to be found.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I saw that yesterday, and the Yankees numbers at LA. This is going to be a great series. I'm really excited for it as a baseball fan, just seeing all these guys, seeing which pitchers. I'm curious to see how they pitch, back to the Cole comment, and then I want to get into the Mets for the last few minutes here and talk about their season and their offseason. But the Cole comment, it's true with these two lineups. There's not really a guy. Maybe Austin Wells is the worst hitter in this whole series, and Austin Wells can take you deep. We saw that last round. Wells can punish you, but really not impressive. The two catchers are the worst hitters in this series right now, and
it's crazy to say.
Yeah, the two catchers are the worst hitters in the series, and one of them is probably the best catcher in baseball, and the other one is a Rookie of the Year candidate in the American League. So they're not pushovers, but they're probably the two worst hitters in this postseason. Maybe Verdugo right now because you don't worry about him as a deep threat at all.
Right.
But Cole is spot on. You just have to throw your pitches. You got to throw strikes and hope that you get a pop-up, hope you get a ground ball, but you're going to get taken deep a few times. You're going to give up a few runs, and you just got to keep going because these lineups are too good to let yourself get down.
6 innings, 4 runs is not a bad thing here.
It's not.
Doesn't qualify as a quality start, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Exactly. It's not a bad thing here. It's just, got to get through it. Just got to get through your start. Get through the next batter. That's what worries me with Carlos Rodon, but we'll see tomorrow how he fares against this lineup. How about last point? You're a starting pitcher, and the Mets had to experience this, of course.
Yeah.
You're a starting pitcher. You step to the mound against the Dodgers, ready to pitch a big playoff game. The first guy that walks up is Ohtani. You don't even get a buffer?
No, you don't.
Oh, my God.
And what's interesting is, and I asked Bobby Valentine this, would have you moved him down in the lineup because of how good he is with guys on base? I mean, his numbers with anybody on base, they're unreal. And he had a streak where he was like 0 for 18 or something like that with nobody on, and he leads off the game. And, he leads off the game. And there's a couple of times throughout the game as well, maybe, 1 or 2 more times where you come up with nobody on. So I asked him, would you move him down to try and get more traffic and have him hit with guys on base? And I think, he had said no because of this reason. Like, the fear of him even just able to beat you, first pitch, oh, bang, you're down 1-0. That does, I guess, light a fire under them as well, the Dodgers. So,
yeah, it really does. Scary lineup, scary team.
Good luck. It wasn't fun.
No, it wasn't, but I don't think the Yankees are much of a pushover here, so I'm going to see. I'm very open-minded. I'm very confident.
Yeah.
In this series. Give me quick your final prediction here as we move to the Mets.
I'm going to say the Dodgers win this in 6 games. I think the starting pitching, the experience from Buehler will lift them I'm guessing he's going to pitch game 3 or game 4, whatever it is. I think that will lift them there. This Dodger team's not afraid to go on the road. I mean, they went into Yankee Stadium and won a series. They could play in New York. They could play in tough environments. I think it'll prove to be the difference here. I think they'll split in LA, and the same thing will happen where they'll go to New York and they'll take 2 out of 3 and then come back to LA and win it in 6.
I think it's going to be Yankees in 6, but I could really see this going in any direction that doesn't involve a sweep. Any 5-game winner I could see, any 6-game winner I can see, and either 7-game winner I can see. I think that the Yankees will have a good time at home. They have to win tonight, though, because I don't trust them down 0-1 with Rodon pitching against Yamamoto on the road. If it was at Yankee Stadium, different story, different feel going into that game. But I don't trust them going down. So you got to win your Cole game. He's the highest paid pitcher of all time for a reason. He's got to go out here and he's got to shove it. And he's got to, like you said, 6 innings, 4 runs. Can you get that? Fine. I think the Yankees are going to have a good time going back home here, though, because it's going to be tough for the Dodgers. I know they just played the Mets, but I don't think it's going to be so easy for the Dodgers pitching to come face this Yankees lineup at Yankee Stadium in, what's the weather going to be next week? 52 degrees, 45 degrees.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be tough. It's going to be colder than it was when they had to go play the Mets. Yes. So Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be 42 degrees. And Wednesday, it's going to be a warm evening game, 60 degrees roughly. So
it was cold those nights at Citi Field, though, I will say. It was cold those nights at Citi Field.
It was. And listen, with respect, I just think this Yankees lineup is a totally different beast than what the Mets lineup had to offer. But I do think the Mets starting pitching is better than the Yankees starting pitching. So that's the trade-off of, I'm not just saying, oh, well, they face the Mets. Now they have to face the Yankees. Well, Yankees have different strengths than the Mets, but I don't think they're much better of a team. We spoke about that a few times. So I got Yankees in 6. You got Dodgers in 6. We'll see how that fares. 6-game series, though. Both of us are on with that. So,
yeah. I feel like that's a really popular pick, the 6-game winner.
It is.
Either way.
Is. And you know what? It's just unrealistic for a 5-game series to happen. And it's also rare to get 7. So I think 6 makes sense logically. You usually have a team that just steals a game that they shouldn't win in those first 5, and they go up 3-2. So Yankees in 6 is what's going to happen, and that's a lock. Let's talk Mets for a moment here before we wrap up. You gave some of your thoughts in your Monday morning instant reaction. I just would like you, for the people listening right now, re-emphasize what you thought there on the end of the season.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable year for them. They just kind of ran out of gas. I mean, they literally, the pitching ran out of gas. You've had guys that either had never or haven't pitched that many innings in years. So, it was a really tough ask. And Sean Manaea, you saw in that game 6, just he had nothing. He had nothing. I thought the Senga experiment really failed in this series. I didn't hate it in the division series just because I thought you had so little options in that game 1 where that worked, but it did not work in the championship series. You should have been taken off the roster after the disastrous game 1. But either way, end of a great year. I know it sounds like, again, I've said this, a loser mentality, but I'm so happy with what they were able to bring. The organization took the right steps, and I think the future is incredibly bright. Now, you're not going to be that underdog team. You're not going to be that fun, can they do this kind of team? But, it'll be different storylines, different expectations. And, I'm very excited to see what the future holds.
So the Mets go into this offseason now where it's very intriguing because they have the prospects. I love what Stern said the other day. That's a pretty cool thing to have potential access to every single player in baseball. This is even through trade. There's a few guys in the league that the Mets can't call up and have a chance at getting, whether they're on a team or not. There's Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, most of the guys we've been talking about. But even like guys that are second options on teams that spend aren't totally off limits most of the time. So the Mets have listen, Mike, I'd have to really go through it. I'm kind of saying this off the cuff here. This might be the biggest offseason in franchise history for the Mets. They have all this money to spend. They've built the foundation. You have an MVP caliber player on your team already. You have a really first offseason for Stearns and Mendoza to build the contender now. You built the little foundational pieces there. You developed really nicely this past season. Now is the time where you're saying, are we going to go all in for Burns? Are we going to go all in for Soto? Are we going to go all in for both? Are we going to get a guy like Bieber or Bueller here? Are we going to get Teoscar Hernandez or Santander here? Are we going to get 3 or 4 of those guys to try and supplement? Who on our team from last year is coming back? Who on our team from last year is getting bumped out?
It's very interesting because this is the first offseason in the Cohen era where they are now have the ability to give serious long-term contracts out. Because remember, there's a lot of short-term deals early on because they wanted to win fast. They didn't really want to hurt the farm. They didn't want to hurt the future.
Yeah. And
now they have the ability to add long-term contracts here. You really only have, you have 2, Nimmo, Lindor, trying to think of another. I don't really think you do have. Oh, I guess you could count Diaz. Yeah. They now have the ability to go add that big long-term contract. It'll be very interesting to see what they do. I haven't been this excited for an offseason in a very, very long time. So
I don't think you should.
Maybe ever
have been. Yeah,
probably
maybe
ever.
That first year of Cohen when they got Lindor and you were like, all right, are we going to spend a bunch of money? But
yeah, but this is legit now because you have the core and you know what you need to add to go really win.
And what also lines up with it is a good free agency class. It's a very good class. I mean, I know the hitters aren't totally exceptional, but there's a good market of pitchers out there. And there is, listen, the Mets are going to walk out of here with one of Burns or Soto. I'd be shocked if they didn't. They will have one of those guys on their team by opening day next year because I think they'll be the highest bidder for both. So they're going to leave with one. That in itself is massive to get a pitcher or hitter who's top 3 pitcher or hitter in their prime on your baseball team. That's huge. That one of those guys is a must. Now, the supplementary guys with Cohen, what's nice is supplementary guys could cost $150 million long term.
Yeah.
What do you do with Alonso here? And on the pitching staff, is Manaea back? I think he is. Is Severino back? Who do you re-sign here? Who's back from this group?
I would not touch Severino with a 10-foot pole.
No,
I would bring Manaea back. I'm a little lesser confident in that as I was maybe a week ago.
Yeah.
Not because of the start, just because, well, kind of because of the start. I don't know how he's going to react, how his arm's going to react to that many innings. So I don't know if I would bring him back reasonably as your third starter. I like him as your third starter. You need a 1. And I don't know who that 1 is. Senga is absolutely not a 1. I don't want to argue with anybody. Senga is not a 1. He's a solid 2. Really good 2 if he's healthy. You need a 1.
That's fine, man. Like
I'm bringing Alonso. By the way, I'm bringing Alonso back. I'm finally there. I'm on the.
Isn't it amazing how much the last 3 weeks of the season can change things? Honestly, Alonso, we were both out on it, and then Alonso. I mean, the home run in Milwaukee, he basically signed his contract. I thought.
Yep.
And then had a good stretch after that. On the Yankee side, Gleyber Torres, I want no part of him, but he's totally earned the right to be re-signed and get a new deal with the Yankees after the last 3 weeks. So this changes everything for these players. I think you can get Manaea back on a pretty friendly deal. I think he would like to stay with the Mets. Guy in his 30s now.
Yep.
He's bounced around. Let me get 3 years here, and he can be your third or fourth pitcher in the rotation with a healthy Senga, and then you have to go sign one of Burns, Bieber, Buehler, one of those guys, obviously. And I'm not saying Bieber or Buehler are the bona fide ace they once were, but you need to get one of those guys if you don't get Burns. It's just an exciting offseason for them. And when you look to the future, what's even more intriguing is the Braves and Phillies are still better for the regular season.
Yeah.
So the Mets now have to. I still think it's Braves 1 when healthy. It's Braves 1, Phillies 2, Mets 3. But the gap is so close between all three of them that you're now building to pass those guys, and they're still building to stay on top.
It's really scary that the Braves are going to come back with the roster that they have, right? And it, you know, again, they're unbelievable. The Phillies, I'm kind of down on the Phillies right now, but okay. The Phillies are going to be back, and I'm sure they're going to have a good regular season. Do you need the Mets to win the division? That's the question I want to ask.
No, you don't. But
you don't. Clearly, you don't.
You'd like to.
Yeah,
but all right. So let me put it this way: the Mets right now, season ends, nobody adds or loses anybody. They're the 5th best team in the National League. I think. Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Padres, Mets.
Okay.
I think all 4 of them for a full 180 or so games are better than the Mets.
That's fine.
But the Mets are a Burns or a Soto or a Hernandez away from maybe being better than all 4 of those teams.
I'm reading right now, Roki Sasaki, the 4 teams that have, the 5 teams that have committed significant resources to scout him this month: Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, and D-backs. He's available. That's a small, it's a minor league contract though. So that's also very interesting. And that's going to be, you know, it's not like you're spending money there to go get him. It's, does he want to come play for you?
Yeah. And he's a right-handed pitcher. How old is he? 26? 22. Okay. So young guy. I don't know how much money that would cost the team, but yeah, now the Mets have some pull in that race with Senga. The Japanese players love to play with teammates in Major League Baseball. Obviously, the Dodgers can offer the guy $15 for 15 years, and he'd probably say yes at this point.
Right.
Just to go play with Ohtani and Yamamoto. But that's always an interesting sweepstake. Who gets the Japanese stud every offseason, whoever gets posted. Yeah, Mets excited for their offseason. Who do you think they get Soto here?
No.
Do you think they get Burns?
Yeah.
Okay, and who else? Like, who's a guy that outside of those 2, who are obviously the headliners, who's a guy that you think they're also going to be heavily in on? That's not a guy on the team right now.
Well, I think Sasaki, right? I mean, now you're reading this about there's. I mean, I've read that they were scouting him, but you know, he doesn't cost money. It's just a minor league contract, and whatever the posting fee is. Teoscar will be an option. I also think the trade market, I think they're going to be very active in the trade market. You know, they need a center fielder. They don't have a center fielder. So whether you trade for a center fielder, you go for Trout, or do you add a right fielder, but you're blocking Drew Gilbert, who should come up this year and make an impact. And I think he's going to be a nice major leaguer. So we'll see what happens.
That's another part of talking about who is, you know, the best teams in the NL. Full season of Mark Vientos next year. That'll obviously help the Mets. They didn't have that this season. I'm just trying to see who. Look at the free agents right now. Snell. I know that I think that teams were interested in Snell at the deadline. I think he has an opt out, or is he just a totally unrestricted free agent?
He's gonna opt out.
Yeah, so he's a guy that
he's an opt out though.
33 now.
31. It'll be interesting.
Scott. It's a good pitcher market. It's a very good pitcher market.
Freddie Peralta? Oh, no, he's got a team option. Sorry.
Evaldi, Met.
Santander.
Clay Holmes.
I'm good. Christian Walker, you know, hey, Alonso walks and you're signing all these pitchers and you grab an outfielder.
Yeah.
I'd sign Christian Walker to a deal half the size of Alonso, if that's the case. Jim Bowden just put out his predictions. He's predicting Alonso to get $200 million. I'm out. I'm out on that.
$200 million? No way. No way.
Out.
You know who I think is a underrated free agent this cycle? Who was I going to say? Goldschmidt, I think. I know he didn't have a very good year this year.
You're a big Goldschmidt guy.
I'm a big Goldschmidt guy.
You're a huge Goldschmidt guy.
You're going to get a great defensive first baseman who could give you something in the middle of the order. Could be the best six hitter in baseball next year. And he's going to want to win a title. So if you're a contending team, I don't think this fits the Mets very much. Goldschmidt. I don't think Goldschmidt fits the Mets very much here. But a team like the Yankees, a team like Boston,
could fit the Yankees,
who are just trying to plug and play guys because they don't really have the prospects to do it. They don't have, they're not really looking to make a big splash at the position. Those are guys that I think, or those are teams that I think could benefit from Goldschmidt. Walker is just more expensive for the veteran guy that, like Goldschmidt, you know what you're getting. Rhys Hoskins is going to be a free agent at first base. I think the Mets should probably go after him. He loves hitting at Citi Field.
Yeah, he'll be great for 81 games. It'll be unbelievable.
Center fielders, you have Bellinger, Bader, Taylor, Garrett Hampson. So really Bellinger, Bader.
Garrett Hampson killed the Yankees in Game 2 of the ALDS.
He killed him in the whole series. I think he had like 390. Kike Hernandez. You want to just stash the guy for October, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. Just stash him.
All right. Well, anything else you want to discuss here? Mets season over, Yankees season.
No,
beginning.
Very excited for the World Series. I'm excited to do. I love the baseball off season, so I'm also excited to do some baseball off season stuff. So that'll be fun, and I think it's going to be an exciting World Series, obviously. And I wish you good luck. I mean, I don't want you to win. I know this is a controversial debate right now. Who should the Met fan root for? I am rooting for the Dodgers. This is apparently a crazy take. They're my second favorite team if I had to pick one. So apparently that's a crazy take.
I would say this of who I think the Mets fans should root for. I think they should root for the Yankees to lose. I don't think they should root for the Dodgers to win. Look, I don't think you should jump for joy if the Dodgers win. But I would root for the Yankees to lose here if I was a Mets fan.
That's how I feel.
Because I know that little brother paradox in some other sports. And
I don't want to live in a world where the Yankees win a World Series before I've seen one, like as a big fan. I don't want to live in that world.
I do not agree with you're going to live in that world. I also do not agree with the it's good for New York narrative. I was rooting for the Mets here for our show.
Right.
I love having them in for the Burrows. And I don't mind when the football teams are good, the Jets and Giants. I thought that was fun 2 years ago when they both had 7 wins in 10 or 11 weeks. But ultimately, I think the city's a little bit more enjoyable as a sports fan when the teams are good and it's not just misery on radio, misery on TV. But when it comes to winning championships, I don't believe in the it's better for New York thing. I believe in this is not my team playing in it. I don't want to see them win.
Yeah. There's also no rivalry with the football teams. No,
there's not.
I don't root against the Jets. I don't. There are times where I root for the Jets.
I did not root for the Patriots to beat the Giants in 11, which was really the first Super Bowl I can remember. But if the Patriots played the Giants in the Super Bowl this year, really realistic Super Bowl
right, of course. That's really close to happening.
But if if the Giants ever played in the Bills, Dolphins, or Patriots, I'd root for the Giants. I don't want to see those 3 teams win. So I'd root for the Giants in that scenario.
And the exact opposite way. The 3 bleep hole teams in my division, I'd be rooting for the Jets.
And the Mets are in a situation unlike any other team that has to share a city. They literally have the most successful franchise in American sports as the co-inhabitant, which is honestly, understandably annoying and frustrating. And the fans that the Yankees have, sorry Yankee fans, sometimes could be a little bit too entitled to enjoy and to root for.
A little
win.
brutal.
A little brutal. I tried to put it nicely there, a little too entitled. But yeah, so I don't think Mets fans can root for the Yankees in this spot. And I see a lot of Yankee fans, well, the Dodgers eliminated, or the Mets fans, a lot of, the Dodgers eliminated us and I don't want to root for them. You don't have to root for them. You shouldn't be rooting for the Yankees to win, though.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Episode 26. Thanks, Mike. For me, for JM, for Gabe, all the guys at BTO that root for the Yankees, this is a big week for us. You can check out Instagram, TikTok. It should have just a load of World Series content over the next 2 weeks until it's over, of course, with the football content as well. And then we'll be moving into the basketball season, the MLB offseason, and the rest of the NFL season. So thank you for watching today. We will hopefully see you Tuesday morning again. Apologies for the past week. We haven't had much bunker. I haven't had much Burrows. I've been under the weather all week. I'm finally feeling a little bit better today, but we weren't going to miss no matter what. If I was in a hospital bed today, we were not missing the Burrows today. Yeah, dedicated to Game 1 of the World Series Burrows. I said to Mike before we started, so many people do podcasts about New York baseball for years and years and years, and they're finally pumped that they're in a World Series with the Yankees this year. Year 1, the Mets and Yankees were 3 of the final teams standing, or 2 of the 3 final teams standing. And now the Yankees are in the World Series. So pretty good luck for us this season that we started it this year, that they made the run this year. And they'll both be in next year for the Subway Series that we deserve this season as the Yankees defend their title in 2025. But that's way down the road. No point in going there now. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're on Spotify, we appreciate it. We'll see you hopefully Tuesday morning. Sunday recap on Sunday night. Missed this week. Once again, apologies. We'll be back Sunday, at least some sort of Sunday recap will be back if it's not the 2 of us, but I think it should be the 2 of us on Sunday night. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the weekend. Be well, be safe, and enjoy the World Series.